Okay, our next speaker is an expert on intergenerational issues in the workplace and the future of work. Her particular specialism helps organizations to create and maintain an age-diverse, inclusive and harmonious workforce, whatever the business or sector. Now, I've seen her speak before and I know you're going to love it, and I found it really useful when it helping me understand the future for my own teenage daughter, or Vicky Pollard as we now call her. So with her strong background in sales and business development, she's going to help us discover the joys of intergenerational working and how we can harness it. Please welcome Henry Roseley. Thank you.
Good morning. I believe in intergenerational inclusion and harmony. And actually, my background is in sales. I've been in sales all my adult life. I first of all started selling things like scales and salt and pepper mills and things like that to Tesco. And I also then went on to B2B sales and started selling consulting and services to people like Legal & General. I then got into sales training, and I worked with everybody from Barclays all the way through to Capita this year. So I'm a mix of sales training, but my passion and my love is about intergenerational inclusivity and harmony. If I can get this to work, there we go. And I believe that actually our younger generations are underrepresented. They can sell much more than we think they can, but we can often believe that our youngest generations don't know what we know as, shall we say, slightly more mature people. And I'm not looking at anyone in the room, I assure you. Let's just position something for you. Millennials are born between 1981 and 1996, so they'd be aged 23 to 38 today. And you probably have some millennials in your workforce today. You're probably some millennials sitting here. In fact, you all look so good, I'm sure you are. So you're somewhere between 23 and 38. If you're 38 years old, millennials have been in your business for a decade. But actually today I want to talk about your younger millennials, so they might be aged 23 to 30. Also, we're looking at Gen Z, and Gen Z are born between 1997 and 2009. So they'd be aged 11 to 22 today, and you might have just a few of them in your workforce. Generation Z are like millennials on steroids, okay? So everything I'm going to tell you for millennials is going to be the same for Gen Z, only more so. So we think there's a bit of a problem, and that's that older generations think this, that millennials and Gen Z are lazy, entitled, weak. That's okay, because younger generations think that older generations are uncaring, dominating. They should be put out to grass, because actually they're out of touch. You see, the point about generations is that if we take the labels away, okay, boomer, if we take the labels away, what we'll actually find is perception. And I'm going to prove perception to you right now. I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers to come up. I need 1 gentleman. I'm looking at you, sir, if you'd like to join me. And 1 lady, I'm looking at you, if you'd like to come and join me. A round of applause for our beautiful and glamorous assistants. Here we are. This is a person who is playing the role of somebody who is very, very young. If you'd like to hold that card, that says, I'm really, really young. And this card says, I'm really, really old. Remember, this is a role play. This isn't real. But it's about perception. If I'm really, really young, if I'm 6 years old, somebody who's 20 looks really old. If I'm about 30, someone who's 4 looks really young. So just think about it this way. If I'm an older person, that could be a baby boomer or Gen X, but let's take the labels away. If I'm just an older person in someone else's eyes, I do have some differences, the way that I was brought up, the background that I had, what was happening in the world, but I might look at a young person and think, you cannot be a policeman, look at you, you're about 12. You cannot be my kid's teacher, that's just not right. Same thing is, if I'm very, very young, and I'm looking at somebody who's older, I just think, why aren't you dead? You can't possibly have sex anymore. Not possible. It gets worse. You see, younger people, particularly in sales, can easily look at older people, and this is what they think older people are doing. Hello, dear. I've been in sales long before you were born. And I know the most important thing is to build the relationship. And it's all face to face. And I'm going to give you all of my views and all of my hints and tips if I can just remember where I put them. But that's okay, because older people are thinking about younger people like this. I've got this really amazing technology. It's really fantastic. It's true. It is. And you know what? It's really cool. And everybody's going to love it because technology is the way that the world is going. Joke, right? Let's bring these two together. Come on. Closer, closer, closer. You see, all generations can work together well. Younger generations are very interested in technology. They're also interested in innovation, novelty, variety, and change. Because they're younger, that's great. Older generations are interested in structure, strategy, and stability. Put the two together, what have you got? Magic, a dream team. Thank you very much for our beautiful, glamorous volunteers. Thank them. You can go and sit down. Thank you very much. There are some differences. There really are some differences. Millennials and Gen Z do think and act differently, and that's because of their background, because of the internet, because of social media. 3 things they do that are really different. The first one is that they share salary and bonus details. That's never happened before. I'm, shall we say, a slightly more mature millennial, all right, Gen X, and I would have died rather than tell anybody what I earn. But now you're finding that millennials and Gen Z, because they're in social media, will just share everything. It's almost like there's no filter. So that means you have to match what you pay them, or you have to be really clear that they're going to talk about what they earn. The second thing is that they have a community online. They don't have a community in your organization. They don't rock up and join your community. Their community is already on their social media. So that's why they appear less loyal. Because to them, they're more loyal to their community. Anybody can be in it of any age or shape or form. But actually, the workplace isn't necessarily where they find their community. So without a community, they feel like they can move. And since most millennials and Gen Z are getting married later, buying a house later or not at all, and having children later, and are far more interested in experience, it's a hell of a lot easier to leave a job when all you have to do is to close your bedroom door. The third thing that's different is they influence their peers to join you or to leave. That's why you have Monster and Indeed and Glassdoor, because you've got your millennials and Gen Z on their social media either bad-mouthing you or saying how brilliant you are. So you have an opportunity to get millennials and Gen Z into your organization to be really effective, because if you find a good one, say, are there any more of you at home? Let's get them in. And pay them for referrals, of course. So that's one difference. But here we are. There are some things that I think that you can do to get your best responses and sales out of millennials and Gen Z. Very simple, and these things are, first of all, to sort out their top 3 priorities. Their first priority is, in fact, money. It is true that millennials and Gen Z are far poorer than any other generation. What's supposed to happen is that every generation that follows the previous one is richer than the one before, but that stopped. Don't believe me? Check it out on the BBC. In 2016, a report came out that proved that millennials and Gen Z, people aged between 22 and 38 today, are 10 years poorer than older generations. You heard me. 10 years poorer. So, of course, money is everything. Now, don't get me wrong. They want to go into a job, and when they're interested in a job or a promotion, money's really important. It's the number 1 priority. Once they're in the job, if they're not happy, no money will keep them there. And by the way, their social media network, their community will be saying, you can leave that job, you can get somewhere else, you can go somewhere else. So they will leave. That's the first one. The second priority is around the culture, which of course many speakers have been talking about today. The culture has to have the right values. It has to be a great place to work. And there has to be some kind of work-life balance. And if that culture is right, then they'll stay. If it isn't, they'll vote with their feet because they can. Now, you may look at them and say, well, why are you doing that? That's not a good idea. But remember that they're growing up in a post-internet, post-social media world where everything is immediate, like fast food. If I don't get it now, if things aren't sorted out quickly, I'm not going to wait a year. The people who stay longest in jobs are baby boomers. Those are the people who are aged between 55 and 73 today. The people who stay next longest in jobs, you guessed it, Gen X, who are aged 39 to 54. Stands to reason our youngest generations are not staying as long in jobs unless we give them these priorities. Third one is all-around flexibility. They want work-life balance, don't we all? Do you know who invented work-life balance? It was Gen X, aged 39 to 54. Do you think they get it? Of course they don't. They're known as the squeeze generation, in between children that won't leave home and older parents and relatives that won't die. So there we are. If you get these three things right, what you'll get is the money will be right, the culture will be right, and the flexibility will be right. And there's just another couple of minutes that I want to share with you. 3 key factors that actually make a real impact to millennials and make them want to work for you and make them want to stay with you and be more loyal. Cause, career, and community. Cause is about saying something a little bit more about your organisation than just we're in it for profit. I know you're in it for profit, we all are. Even a non-profit or a charity is in it for money. That's our currency. But actually, what our millennials and Gen Z want to know is that your best writing product is actually delivering an enormous amount of value to the community, an enormous amount of value to individuals as well as to businesses. They need to really understand not just the value that's being given to the customers and clients, but also how proud they feel about that vision. And they also need to have more than that. They need to have some sort of element of charity or corporate social citizenship where they're connecting what they do into saying we're going to give more to younger people or we're going to give more to people who need stuff. And so that's what Cause is there for. Community you already know about. If I have a social media network and that's where my community is, you as organisations that employ salespeople need to make sure that you're really building that community inside. And it isn't just enough to do social events or have a Christmas party. I was at one last night, an awards ceremony, and it's the only event they do in a year. That's not good enough. You need to create a lot more opportunities for them to get together and feel connected. And they could be across learning and development, they could be conferences, they could be seminars, whatever it is. They love millennials and Gen Z getting together face to face. It looks like they don't because of their social media, but they love it. And the last one is really career. And career, I'm just going to talk about 4 things because we all want to do a career, but for millennials and Gen Z, here's what's really important. Job description and titles. Too many of us in sales are given a job description and then we get into the job and we discover that it's a little bit different from what we thought it was going to be. Can't do that to millennials and Gen Z. They'll think you're lying. And when they join on day 1, they'll hate you a little bit. That's not good for loyalty. So give them a very clear job description. If it changes, then change the job description for them. And give them a good job title. I said I've been in sales all my adult life. When I started, I was a sales rep. What am I selling? A product. Now when people start in sales, you should call them a sales manager. What are they managing? Themselves. What are they managing? The product or the service. What are they managing? The client, the customers, or the stakeholders. Don't be sarcastic and cynical. If millennials and Gen Z are 10 years behind Gen X and baby boomers in earnings and in their own personal wealth, that's the least you can give them, a really good title. Career path. Career path can be ladder, so it can be hierarchical from the bottom to the top. Not many of us are going to get there. It can be a lattice. Think of an underground map. You are here, you want to go over there, but you can do lots of different things. And in organizations, you can be far more flexible in the way that you create a career path for individuals. You can make it really interesting. And if you don't know what they want, do you know what? It's really easy, just ask them. And they'll tell you because millennials and Gen Z are only too happy to tell you what they think. Development. They love training. And what I want you to bear in mind is that your millennials and Gen Zers, particularly the younger ones in your organization, they don't know what good looks like in your eyes. They didn't grow up with your background. They didn't grow up recognizing how to build relationships. They didn't grow up with good communication skills face-to-face and telephone. They grew up with email and WhatsApp, and now they're using TikTok. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It's coming. So the most important thing about them is to learn how to do things right. And you can train them on anything. They love it. They see it as currency. And because they believe they'll have a portfolio career, learning and development is everything. And finally, job progress. You can create a way to make them feel like they're making good progress, and not just that they're hitting their sales targets, but that they're moving forward in the organization. And you can do this in 3 ways. The first way is to change their job title on a regular basis. So they could go from a sales manager to a senior sales manager to a team leader to a vice president of sales. Create these titles. You can do it. That's the least you can do. It's easy. And the second thing that you can do is a primus inter pares. Anybody speak Latin? Obviously not. That's first among equals. It basically means that you look at your sales team and you say, do you know what? I'm going to create 4 roles. Each of those 4 roles is run for 3 months. We rotate it. You have the job for 3 months, then you do, and you're going to have slightly more money. And actually, what you're going to do is a slightly bigger job, and then you go back down into the sales team afterwards. It gives them a sense of momentum. And the third thing that you can do is offer them projects, and you can offer them all kinds of access to senior people in your organization, senior stakeholders, new clients, client groups, all sorts of things. All of those really help. Just one last thing to share with you, and that is that my name is Henry Rose Lee. It's a completely made-up name. If you find me, you can ask me why I changed it. If you Google me, I'll come up first, and I'd love you to give me more information. I'd love to give you more information, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. Thank you very much.